you are and what you do.
I'm Patrick McDonough. I'm the owner of a company called Hype Strategic, which is a branding marketing firm. I also own a company called Showbox, which manufactures trade show exhibits. What else? Shadowbox, a staff and recruiting company. So kind of an experienced entrepreneur, but definitely focused on branding and marketing.
Hi, my name is Tyler Swanner. I'm the creative director at Always Creative, which is a multidisciplinary design office here in Houston. We specialize in brand building for companies and organizations, and also website design and development.
My name is Dutch Small. I own a company called Emergency, experiential marketing and public relations. I've been in the marketing environment for 20 years. I was previously the publisher of a magazine.
My name is Christian Watson. I run a company called 1924. It's all branding, illustration work. I do a lot of logo design and marketing as well. It's all social media based. Everything I do is digital. It's pretty simple.
All right, so we're going to get started with you, Christian.
All right.
First question. We all know that design plays a significant role in branding. Tell us what's your personal take on why it's important to be intentional about great design from the very beginning.
So from the beginning, and actually Patrick and I were talking about this earlier, one of the really, really big and important things when working with people and working with brands and working with design is that you have kind of this cohesive background that's kind of always influent, always noticeable through everything that you're doing. Design from the start is founded on what your ideas and what you're kind of bringing to the table, and really you just have to go at it with your ideas and your theories behind what you're starting. Design doesn't just come from nothing, like there's a reason behind it, and the important part about translating that, in whatever medium it is that you're carrying through your ideas that build that design.
Anybody want to add on to that?
Yeah, he alluded to a conversation we had earlier. I think when you talk about being purposeful with design, it's really important to understand what it is that you're trying to communicate, and really, sit down with a client or whoever it is, even with yourself when you're trying to develop your own personal brand, and making sure you understand what it is you're trying to do, and then apply those ideas and those theories to the design. From everything from the color to the shapes to the design flourishes, and make sure it all has to be purposeful. I tell the designers that work for me, if they show me the design concept for a client and I ask them, why is that design element in there? And if they just tell me because it looks cool, I'm going to tell them to get rid of it, because it all needs to be purposeful.
Makes sense. Tyler, you want to add to that? So we'll move on to the next question. After designing, there's a lot of testing that goes on. What's your process in developing a strategy with the insights that you have? Do you ask your clients for direct feedback? Do you go on intuition? Do you look at market trends, or all of the above?
Yeah, okay, so I think this part's actually extremely collaborative. So essentially what you're asking is, once the design phase, once the kind of the brand image is developed, how to reach the market with communicating that brand message, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so repetition obviously is important, and you got to remember, really, kind of philosophically, this is where I come from all the time. Your consumer, or your target consumer, your potential consumer, really probably just does not care anything about you at all. And you've got to earn that tiny little bit of brain space that you're going to get devoted to eventually through repetition and through consistency. And so, deciding who that target consumer is, figuring out where that target consumer is, and then consistently being where they are over and over and over again as often as possible. That's how you're going to earn yourself that tiny little bit of brain space. So, consistency and repetition.
Yeah, I would agree with all the things that you just said. With what we do at Always Creative, it's a very collaborative process from the beginning. Understanding what our clients need, and also not only what they need, but what their customers need and what their customers want. That is entirely the foundation for everything that we build. So when you're talking about specifically the design building process, it's informed. It's very well informed. It's very well intentioned. That's really the only way to have a proper impact.
Just to add to that, it's absolutely a creative process, or a collaborative process. But I do think you know, that collaboration, I think from the client side, starts at the beginning, where they tell you what they're trying to accomplish and what their goals are. And then you as the designer, really the expert on branding, you add, you know, how to communicate that and what it needs to be. And really from my clients, I don't look at that part of it as so much collaborative. I really, you know, we come in and say, we're the experts in design, you tell us what we want to accomplish and we'll help you do that. But we really try to limit the amount of back and forth after that step. And so, you know, we trust you, you know how to run your business, and you trust us on how to communicate that and execute that design. So there's not a lot of, you know, changes and back and forth. And, you know, we asked, you mentioned if it's intuitive. We really base a lot of it on experience and research on, you know, if these are your goals, here's the things that we know works to communicate those things. I'm not a big fan of just pretty design because it's intuitive, it feels good. You know, I really want to see the research and, you know, the experience behind that. And if you do that well and you show that client that one design and say this is where you need to go, and you explain all the steps you went through to get there, and it makes sense, then, you know, there's almost never any objections, and then, you know, they buy into it and say, okay, I get it, that's why you did that, and, you know, we're behind it. But, you know, the collaboration comes from those part. I don't really believe in the design part as collaborative. I think it's just, here's the business that we want to accomplish, and we do the design part. And some clients love it, some clients don't.
Makes sense. So I want to invite you guys to ask questions. We have an application called Slido. So you can ask questions at sli.do/platformit. I'll repeat that. sli.do/platformit. And if you ask questions, other people can raise those questions to the top, and we'll encourage you guys to ask those questions, and we'll get them up. So the next question is, a client's brand usually comes in the form of a logo. What other marketing tips have you used to strengthen one's relationship with a particular brand outside of just the logo?
I'll take it. There's another mic there, so I don't want to feel like I'm holding hog on the mic. Yeah, I think that's a big misconception that your brand is your logo. Because the logo is just a design mark to identify you, but your brand is really, you know, your personality, what you're communicating, what you stand for. That's your brand. I mean, it's a combination of your logo, your tagline, your, you know, visual marketing, and these days your social media, the personality that you have online through Twitter and how you interact with people. That's your full brand. It's not just the logo mark.
Your brand is a story, and it's a story that you're consistently telling over and over and over to your target market. I think trying to think of it as just that logo, or it's the logo obviously is important, and all of those visual cues that you develop, but your brand communicates to your consumer your values, why you're valuable to them. Whatever it is that I'm doing right now, I'm supposed to be cool to you, I'm supposed to be, you know, high value, provide some kind of service. Whatever it is that I need to communicate to the target about who I am and why I'm useful, why I should be getting attention and why I should be earning your dollars, that's the brand. It's the entire story behind it, and I think that's a really good point.
To touch on that a little bit, I think a brand's kind of like a relationship. When you try to develop it with someone, like, how do you want to sell yourself? Sure, you're like this pretty person in terms of your logo, like it looks really, really good, but then beyond that, like, what does it stand for and what does it mean? And that's really where, you know, you start to see someone, you're like, oh, you're really pretty, like, I'm intrigued by you, you know, that logo, that's the first kind of thing that catches your attention maybe. And then beyond that, like, what's actually captivating you about this girl or this guy that you want to go on the second and third and fourth date with? Like, who do you want to marry yourself to, really? And really, your brand stands for that entirety of you rather than just, you know, one aesthetic appeal.
Yeah, I think we're all probably saying the same thing in different ways. Like, another way that I would say it, in a way that we say it regularly, is that your brand is branding, and your brand is a collection of experiences. It's a story. The collection of experiences make up that story, and it's not just a logo. It's not just a color palette. It's very much an ongoing, living, breathing entity. So it's important not only to have an important logo, or not only to have an appropriate logo that connects with your clients, but also to be constantly creating new content for your brand. So outside of just a logo, we should probably discuss different ways to connect aside from strictly visual design or like visual touch points, but video content for the web is something that we constantly build for our clients now. In the past, a client would come to a design firm and say, yes, we need a new website. And that would sometimes maybe include a photo shoot of some headshots of the important people at the company. But now it's, okay, we need a website, but that's a secondary conversation to what are we going to put on the website? What's our content? And so now a large part of our business is shooting films for our clients, whether it be corporate films or shooting photography that is almost like a lifestyle photography. In the past, a lifestyle quote-unquote photography you would see as a way to communicate a spirit of a company, and then corporate photography would be completely different. Well, now the two are merged and melded into one, and now companies want to appear as a lifestyle brand. And so through video and film and narrative content, whether it be writing, whether it be photography, there are all these different ways, including social media, which I'm assuming we'll get to in a moment, to connect with the brand and to build that collection of experiences.
Yeah, just to add to that, I think that's a great point. One of the things we talk about with our company is that all the things you mentioned, with video, website, prints, trade shows, whatever it is, those are all just tools. None of those are your brand. And when you try to establish what you want your brand to be, then it just comes down to reaching in the toolbox and finding those tools that can help you get there. And like you mentioned, content, video, all that stuff just comes and becomes part of that story.
So you have to speak the language that you're on. Like, you don't want to necessarily use Facebook and then use that same information and just put it onto Twitter and use that same information and put it onto Snapchat. You have to be authentic to that particular platform.
Yeah, to be successful for sure. There's probably the majority of companies just do exactly what you're talking about. They sign up with Hootsuite or whatever it is and just have the same post on all those things at once. But they're not getting any traction. They're not making a connection with their audience or engaging. When you really understand who your audience is and where they're at, and understand how to engage with them, then it comes down to finding the right mediums and communication platforms to get to them and then using them the right way.
Very good. So we had a question.